Let's make some noise. Come on.
Ah, yes, indeedy, Nick Foles. Thank you once again for that rousing introduction. Fire up the audience. That's what we need. Welcome, everybody, back to the final word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Our Sunday edition, our first broadcast of a new week. Hopefully, things go a little bit more smooth for me this week than they did last. My schedule's a little clearer this week. It is. I am going out of town for a couple days. So I won't be on the air, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday. But other than that, tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, looking pretty good. I got a little break, a little reprieve for the 4th of July week and weekend. So it's great to be back. And, of course, apologies across the board for my tardiness and my not producing shows last week. Again, I've already gone over this 1,000 times. I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm trying. It's not enough time sometimes in the day for me. But let's put all that aside because tonight we got a lot to talk about because one of the benefits of not coming together on a regular basis, like I was not doing last week, is we got some things to catch up on and some things that we need to hash out. We had a draft in the National Hockey League occur on Friday and Saturday. The Flyers, 9 players now more. 9 players richer are the Philadelphia Flyers after Saturday or Friday and Saturday's draft in Los Angeles. We're going to break down the draft. We're going to talk pick by pick. Maybe not all the picks, but we're going to break down the top 3 or 4. Give my take. I want to hear your takes as well on what you think the Flyers did. Did they get better? They draft wise? They draft unwise? Are you upset, disappointed, excited? Any of those emotions that might be flooding in on you after the Flyers draft. The Sixers had a draft, but you know what? I'll talk about it. I don't really care about it, but I'll talk about it if you guys want to bring it up. And your Philadelphia Fighting Phillies salvaged the road trip, as I said earlier on the Fighting's final. A gutsy 2-1 win as starting pitching continues to carry this team. But for how much longer can they do that? We've reached the first half. We reached a milestone in Major League Baseball this week. We are into the second half of action. We are officially, with today's action, finished game 84. So we are over the official halfway point of the 2025 season. We're going to recap the only way I know how. We're going to go through the numbers of some of the key areas that this team has and how they performed in the first half. Real weird half. And we'll break some of that stuff down. The other night segment, we're not breaking down the NHL draft anymore, so we can focus solely on the MLB draft. That's coming up. And we're going to do that and some Phillies prospects maybe. We'll see what we can do with that. Your day in Philadelphia sports history, a banner day, a day I remember well, especially the after effects of what happened on this day in Philadelphia sports history. We'll get to that. And your card review segment, all rolled up into one tidy little bundle here on the final word with MattyB on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. They're proud producers of such quality programming as the Fighting's final. And starting tomorrow night, the Phillies will return home and battle the San Diego Padres. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Pat, Steve, and Mike Laro are your hosts. So make sure you're checking in because we do a lot of things well here on this network. And one of the things we do really well is we are a bunch of post-gaming fools, man. Cover them all. Well, we cover 3 of them. I'm debating on whether or not we're going to do it with the 4th one. I don't know if I want to waste my time. Well, I'm not going to do it. If we do a Sixers post-game show, it ain't me hosting it. I can tell you that much, but more to follow on that a little bit later. So let's strap it in, strap it on, strap it up. Keep your heads, hands, and feet inside the car at all times, and let's get rolling here on the program tonight. Your day in Philadelphia sports history on this day back in 1985. In an interview, you guys remember this? I remember it well. In an interview published by the Montreal Gazette, Mike Schmidt, the infamous interview that Mike Schmidt gave, had the Philadelphia Phillies fans in his crosshairs. Schmidt was particularly criticized for his statement about the Philly fans. I quote, whatever I got in my career now, I would have a great deal more if I'd played in Los Angeles or Chicago. You name a town, a place where the fans were just grateful for me to be there. He apologized, end of quote. He apologized later for those comments, and he softened his stance the days that followed. And then, of course, a few days later on July 1st, he showed up for pregame warm-ups at the Vet wearing the wig and sunglasses, which the fans greatly appreciated, gave him a round of applause. But it was huge when he did that, when he said that, when he went off on the Philadelphia Philly fans. Now, of course, in the years that followed after his retirement and as he had time to reflect upon his career, he decided that there was one regret he had in baseball, and that was what he allowed the Philadelphia Phillies fans to get to him. And he really they misunderstood Phillies fans. All they wanted was a winner, and they demanded as such. And they considered Mike Schmidt the greatest that ever played the game at that position, and he also considered him the greatest Philadelphia Philly ever to play the game, and they just wanted him to play that way. I never softened my stance on that as well. And I think Mike Schmidt realized it. He acknowledged it in 1990 when they retired his number. And they also he acknowledged it in 1995 when he was inaugurated or inducted into the Hall of Fame. That if there was one thing you could change, it would have been the way he handled himself with the fans. And on this day in 1985, the infamous article that he criticized the Philadelphia fans for saying, "Can't you just be happy I'm here?" Imagine if a player said that today. Ooh, man. But that was your day in Philadelphia sports history, the infamous Mike Schmidt article back in 1985. So hope you enjoyed that. Again, I remember it very well. Very, very well. Joe Hale, what's up? As I was a young man at the ripe old age of 12 back then. But I remember it, and I remember the backlash, and I, of course, remember when he showed up pregame on July 1st wearing the wig and sunglasses. So Mike Schmidt, the greatest Philadelphia Phillies player of all time, and the greatest third baseman ever to play the game. So there you go. All right, let's get it going. Let's get in with the Phillies, I guess. Let's lead off with them. I'll save the Flyers for the end part of the show. But, anybody wants to bring up the Flyers, I'll jump into that. But let's start with the Phillies. Winners today, 2-1, salvaging the road trip and taking the series 2 games to 1 over the Atlanta Braves. Returning home now to play the San Diego Padres in a very uninspiring offensive week that saw them score a minuscule amount of runs. Really, if you take away the 13-0 game the other night, the offense hit new lows this week. New lows that not much is being really paid attention to. Not much is being considered about it. Not much is being talked about it. And if it is being talked about, it's being shoo-shooed by the, let's call them homers. By the homers out there that want to chalk up the Phillies' offensive power outage, or not even power. It's not even a power outage. It's just an outage. To that's baseball. The biggest homer coward excuse going is that's baseball. Do people really believe out there that baseball fans don't understand the peaks and valleys of 162 game series? Is there people out there that really believe that we don't know that 162 games is a large amount of games and that we should not be concerned when the team doesn't perform well? I get it. I've never spoken to a baseball fan that on day one, game one, whatever, you lose 19-0 or that's it, it's over. The season's done. We're going to back away from this thing. Let's burn the boats. Let's start all over again. We got 161 left. Who cares? I don't care about that. We lost 19-0. Do the homers really? And I don't even know if it's the homers doing this. It's a large amount of the homers that do it, but do people think we're that stupid that we don't understand that it's 162 games and that a bunch of stuff happens through the course of a baseball season? I mean, is there anybody out there that actually believes that? I mean, I honestly don't get it. So I'm never going to give you that's baseball excuse, because that's what that is. It's an excuse. It's a way for people to make themselves feel better about the quality or about the product or about the overall expectation of this team. Listen, the Phillies' offensive ineptitude over the past 10 days, or I guess I can't say 10, 7 days, right? You can call it 7. Since the 8th inning or ninth inning of the Mets game last Sunday, I think the Phillies have scored what? With the 13-0 game excluded, they've scored like 4 runs or 6 runs, something like that, over the course of the last, I don't know how many innings that is. But you couple that with their offensive inconsistencies over the last 3 years. Do I need to hear from some homerdite that that's baseball? I mean, listen, guys, I get it that I come off sometimes a little bit more on the, I guess I'll say negative tip. I get the takes that I gave you are more, I don't know. I hate to use the word real, but I will. I mean, I get that I could sometimes come up from the top rope at times. I'll admit to that. But you're telling me scoring 6 runs minus the 13-0 game on Friday night over the past week, coupled with the offensive inconsistencies over the last 3 years, that we're not supposed to be concerned? I mean, are you kidding me? So no, that's not baseball, folks. That's an excuse. It's sticking your damn head in the sand, trying to wish away that all these problems would go away. Oh, please, Nick Castellanos bat for average. Oh, please, Bryce Harper come back from your injury. Oh, please, this lineup somehow find a way to get balanced. Instead of trying to look at the real answers or trying to focus on the problem and try to fix it, we're trying to wish it away, much like the Phillies manager is, and much like I think Dave Dombrowski is at times. So heading into today's game, a 2-1 win and a pitching battle, Spencer Strider against Ranger Suarez, a hell of a game. Phillies were able to find a way to win, but it does not mask the problems of this offense. And it's not like, as I said, it's something new. It's not. This is a question and a problem that's been talked about in nauseum over and over and over again for years. And nothing's been done to fix it. Just a bunch of lip service and a bunch of that's baseball. So we got the series win against the divisional rival. We're a game and a half up on first place in early or late June. We got a big time bunch of games coming up over the next 10 days or so. Reds, Padres twice. It's going to be a telling next couple of weeks. We're cruising towards the All-Star break. We're getting into that point of the season where you should start kind of kicking in on all cylinders, but we here in this town are still wondering what this team is. Now, with the win today, for the month of June, the Phillies have pulled themselves to a 13-13 month. 13-13 for the month of June. They have a chance to go out on top tomorrow. So it's either going to be above 500 or below 500 for the month of June, barring it rain out against the Padres. If they don't win tomorrow and they finish 13-14 for the month of June, excluding the 19-9 May that the Phillies have had this season, they would have either finished at 500 or slightly below or slightly above for the season, to exclude the month of May. And we're getting into that part of the season where it's no longer early. We can't rely on that sword anymore. It's not baseball. You can't ever lay on that sword. You're getting into that time of the season where it's either do or friggin' die from July on to the end, right? And again, I'm a big time believer that this thing doesn't really start till after the All-Star break anyway. You got to put yourself in a position to be good then. But are we going to be in that position? Are all the problems and the questions about this Phillies team going to be settled by the All-Star break? No, of course they're not. Matter of fact, I don't think any of them are. Who is the replacement for Jose Alvarado? Dave Dombrowski's had 6 weeks now to figure that out, and we have not seen a trade. Right? Who's coming in to replace Jose Alvarado? That's just like the top one, or not even a top one. That's just a random one. A random problem that continues to fester that has not been addressed yet by your GM or your president of baseball, whoever he is. And now we're in the part of the season where it's no longer applicable for rational people, not homers, because homers will be homers all the time, and they'll homer it up. I mean, what's the life of a homer like, man? I mean, what's the color of the sky in that world? Like, do they get up in the morning and bang their head against the wall? Or is it a drug they take? Some sort of like encampment? I mean, how do they get their day going? What's the first lie they tell themselves in the morning? I want to know. What's the ritual for a homer in the morning when they wake up? I would love to know. Somebody who's either knows a homer, is a recovering homer, or is a homer that wants to speak out on it, to be an advocate to help other homers. Please come and tell me what a day in the life of a Philadelphia sports homer is, because I want to get to the root of the problem. And maybe we can solve, maybe we can make some breakthroughs here tonight on this program. Maybe I could bring somebody back into the light tonight. But I just want to know how you get past the reality right off the bat. Like when you open your eyes, does somebody slap you in the face? Or you get hit over the head with a hammer? What gets you into homer mode to start your day? I got to know. So somebody please tell me what that is and how that is, because I would love to know. I had a horrible weekend. Joe, buddy, a mini stroke. Are you okay? Now, I thought I had a bad weekend, Joe. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Joe, and I hope your presence on this program tonight is an indicator that you're fine, that you're doing all right. But that's very tough to hear. I'm so sorry. My condolences to you, and I hope everything is okay. The homers stink. That's right, Joe Hale. They do stink. Michael Laro saying, hope you feel better. Joe, yeah, I absolutely agree too, Joe. That's some news to lay on us, man. Sorry to hear that, Joe. Michael Laro, thanks, Mike. The Padres have a bullpen pitcher going tomorrow. Yeah, I know they announced their undecided starter. And listen, the Phillies have an opportunity. They have an opportunity tomorrow to finish the month of June above 500. And hopefully they can. I really do. Because, as I said, excluding the month of May, where they were 19-9, let's review real quick. Here's the record by the month. 3-1 in March, 14-12 in April, 19-9 in May, and 13-13 so far in the month of June. So you take away the month of May, and I know you can't. It's part of this. There has not been one month where they've been a World Series caliber team. They've been a 500 or slightly above 500 team the entire season, with the exception of 1 month. Homers don't want to hear that, or homers don't see that. Homers pretend that doesn't exist. Homers home. I don't know. I don't know what they do, how they get through the day. I really don't know. Maybe they're oblivious to these numbers. They are a one day and they erase themselves and they start again the next day. I don't know what the secret is to being a homer. I would love to know. Someone needs to help me out. I'm not negative. I am not, and I agree. I am not negative. It's horrible. Be more specific, Joe. When I talk Flyers, call out Pat Bernard. He's a Flyers homer. I don't know what Pat's takes are on the Flyers. I don't know. Does Pat have some heartburn with the Flyers draft? But we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the Flyers here momentarily, but I just want to get some things off my chest about the Phillies. So we are into the second half of the season. So I am going to go back right now quickly and review some of the first half numbers. Through 81 games, these are all through 81 games, which is not a small sample size. Let's get that homerism out of the way right off the bat. That's not a small sample size. That's a pretty large half a season sample size. Phillies committed 30 errors in the first half of 2025. The whole error thing in 2025 is somewhat convoluted these days because the scoring is terrible the way they judge errors. It's not like it was 20 years ago. Hell, I don't think it was the way it was 10 years ago. So the Phillies have officialized 30 errors. I would say that by regular scoring, could have been at least 20, 25 more. Some of the stuff that wasn't scored an error that should have been. But, 30 is what the official number is. And that's 30 errors in 81 games. I can live with that. It's still a little high, man. I mean, I don't know. It's a Major League Baseball caliber team, allegedly, and you're committing 30 errors. And again, I think that number is sort of off because there's probably 20 to 25 more errors that were not ruled errors in this soft-ass scoring system of 2025. But 30 errors through 30 games. Their opponents also committed 30 errors in 30 games against them. The Phillies in 81 games grounded into 49 double plays through the first half. That is over half, right, of the games they grounded into a double play. That's not very good. Alec Bohm, JT Realmuto have been the biggest culprits of grounding into double plays. To aid in the runners in scoring position conundrum even worse, they're grounding into double plays. So that's a number I've been keeping an eye on for a few years now. It's starting to get a little bit trending in the wrong way. Again, about half the games this season, or over half of the games the Phillies played in the first half, they get grounded into a double play. That's not very good. 64 stolen bases for the Phillies in the first half of the season. 64. Now, in contrast, they stole 78 in the first half of last year, and they stole 64 in the second half of last year. So I don't know how where did how did we fall off from 78 to 64 last year? And how are we like hovering around 64? Why are we leveled off at 64? What has happened to the Phillies base running? Why are they not as aggressive on the base pads as they've been? Is it because they lack runners? Is it because they lack speed? Is it because they're not as disciplined, or Rob has changed his approach on the base pads? But just 64 stolen bases in the first half of the season, to equal the total they had in the second half of the season, down by 14 that they had in the first half of last season. Now, here's the numbers now we're getting into the juicy numbers, the home runs. 83 home runs for a team predicated on power through the first half. 83 friggin' home runs for a team predicated on power. Slightly over one a game, right? Slightly over one a game. Now, again, in contrast to 2024, they hit 97 homers in the first half, and they hit 98 homers in the second half. So they hit more homers in the second half than they have in the first half. This has been one of the big questions about the Phillies in 2025. Where the hell is the power? Is it Bryce Harper's fault that they're not hitting home runs anymore? But what do we got? We got two players on the roster now that currently have double digits in home runs. So not only do they not play small ball or contact/hitting baseball, they apparently are not playing long ball either. 83 lousy home runs through 81 games for the Phillies. For a roster that's completely unbalanced, built heavily on power. Where the hell is the power? Now, the other side of this home run conundrum is what the starting pitching, or I shouldn't say starters, but the pitching of the Phillies have given up in the first half of the season. 87 home runs. Phillies pitching surrendered 87 home runs in the first half of 2025. 87. So their opponents literally out-homered them through the first half. Now, that number with the pitching and the home runs has been a very negative trend that began last season in the second half, where Phillies pitching surrendered 118 homers to their opponents. Now, in the first half of last year, the Phillies only gave up 64 homers. So I guess maybe you can look at the positives, that from 118 down to 84, or was it 87? 87. So 118 down to 87. Maybe that's something, 19 less or whatever. You're looking at that number, or 29 less, whatever that is. Now, last year, the excuse given to me why the Phillies were giving up a lot of home runs in the second half was because of the revolving number 5 start problems the team had for the majority of the second half last year. Well, we haven't had that problem. Well, we have had a problem with surrendering home runs as a pitching staff as a whole so far through 2025. 87 home runs on the draft, or not the draft. 87 home runs. The runs through the past 9 games is horrible. Yeah. To exclude, of course, that 13-0 power outage, or power out, burst they had. Pat hated the Flyers draft. Well, why do you hate it? Why do you hate the draft? Anybody, be more specific, Joe. Why did Pat hate the draft? Would you trade Stott and go with Sosa or Aiden Miller at second base? I would go with neither. Sosa's not an everyday guy. Aiden Miller's not ready. Mike, listen. I know the first thing we go to is who do we get rid of? I know the first thing is who do we package? Bryson Stott, you're going to – what do you expect to get for Bryson Stott? Well, let's go there. I would think that the biggest thing you're going to get for Bryson Stott is the CC, the cash considerations, right? Bryson Stott's got no trade value. Can't lead off. He strikes out way too much. Now, his defense is above average to potential elite. I mean, he's working on that. So you're trading him predicated on his defense because his offense is terrible. So I don't know what you're going to get for Bryson Stott. And I know that a lot of Phillies fans go to that. They go, well, who can we trade? Who can we bring here? How can we get better? And I said this on the Fight and Spinal earlier. It's not that easy in season. Matter of fact, it's damn near impossible in season to fix this. That's why they have an off season. That's why they have a free agency period in baseball that begins literally 24 hours after the last game of the World Series. That's why they have that. So you can address those problems in that time and not have to try to do it in season. Aiden Miller is not ready. Aiden Miller is not ready. I'm going to tattoo that across my forehead. He won't be ready probably till 2027. Armando Sosa is not an everyday fielder. I don't know what to do. I said this earlier on the Fight and Spinal. Dave Dombrowski has painted himself into a corner with this team. It's ride or die with this. And that's what I think a lot of Phillies fans need to accept for the negative or the positive of this. It is ride or die with the Philadelphia Phillies in 2025. Now, does he finally do something and decide, I'm not going to run it back for a fourth year in 2026, and then maybe I'm going to make wholesale changes this offseason? Stay tuned. But it's a ride or die situation with the Phillies in 2025. That's what we got to understand. I'm not telling you to like it. I'm not telling you that it's the right thing. But I'm telling you that's what it is. They may tweak it here or there. They may make a minor move here or there that they're going to. But there is no wholesale changes coming from this core of this team this year. Now, free agency is going to spur on some changes next year with some major players hitting free agency. I don't know if some of them or any of them come back, but it's ride or die in 2025. And it's, again, I bitched about it back in February. I bitched about it back in January that they weren't doing enough, that the decision to run it back again was obviously their intent. And I wasn't happy with it then, and I sure as hell ain't happy with it in late June. But that's the reality of it all. We're not getting quality, and we're not going to be able to remake the roster in season. You know, the Otto Kemp movement right now is pretty much what this team could cross their fingers on, is giving opportunities to players like Kemp, Justin Crawford, whenever he gets his shot. When those Mick Abels got his shot, when the Phillies decide to give players their opportunity from the minors, they got to maximize it, because that is what's going to make this team go in 2025. Again, I said it way back when, that somebody in the minors, some player or players in the minors was going to have a huge impact on the 2025 Phillies. I said this way back when, because there's no way that they're going to be able to externally fix this in season. So the kind of getting Otto Kemp comfortable at the major league level, Mick Abel settling in at the major league level, Justin Crawford getting his opportunity whenever that does come, hopefully soon. Those players are the ones that are going to make change it for the Phillies, or not change it, because there's no external help coming. Not that major of external. That's just the reality of in-season baseball. That's why they have off seasons. That's why they have a period of about 3 months where you can remake your roster completely if that's what you so desire to do. And Dave Dombrowski did nothing with that time, because it was running it back. So it's ride or die in 2025. And yes, when this thing all said and done with, we might be talking about Otto Kemp NLCS MVP, or Otto Kemp World Series MVP, or Mick Abel, shutting the doors down in Game 7 of the World Series. We might be speaking of that. Or we're talking about Otto Kemp striking out with the bases loaded in Game 7 of the NLCS, or Mick Abel giving up 14 runs in Game 5 of the NLDS, or something like that. But somewhere along this line, this season's going to be wrapped around a minor league player and what they did or did not do for this team. That's the reality of where we're at with this team. Ricky Deal. I would love to think Robbie makes the call on stealing bases. I don't know about that, but something's different about the way they've always been a very aggressive. Rob Thompson has always been an aggressive base kind of guy. At least he sort of it looked that way, but way down with stolen bases this half. Michael Papernick, I think, is both. I know you are, Ricky. I saw you there. Pat hated the draft that we didn't get a goalie defenseman. Well, we got a defenseman. What am I saying? We didn't get a goalie. Was he wanting to draft a goalie in the first round? What about the two high goalie prospects we took 2 years ago or 3 years ago in the second and third rounds? What the hell is he talking about? Goalie and a defenseman. Come on, man. You're pulling my lariat, right? You're not. He didn't want to draft a goalie or defenseman, did he really? They drafted a defenseman. What about the offense? What about the Flyers' inability to put the puck in the net? We're going to worry about keeping it out of the net. But listen, I guess the philosophy is you build outward, right? You build from the blue line up, or the goal crease out. You get the goalie, then you get the forwards, then you get the defense, right? I don't know, man. We need to figure out the upfront stuff first, honestly. I got to be able to put the puck in the net more than less than 3 times a game that the Flyers did last year. That's not going to work. No, we need scorers, man. A lot of them. So no, you guys are joking with me. Friends, thank you, Rick. Yeah, I saw that, man. By the way, getting back to this, let's get through this because I'm already 33 minutes into the show. Strikeouts. So Phillies pitching through the first half struck out 738 batters, over 9 a game. That's outstanding. I love that. Again, the constant thing this season with this team has been pitching. They've also, as a team, struck out 638 times. So less than 8 times a game, which is a trend in the right direction. That's the lowest it's been in a long time. I don't remember seeing it lower than that before. Always around 8, 8.5, sometimes 9. But the Phillies in the first half of 2025 only struck out on average 7.8 times a game. I know you can't strike out 0.8 times a game, but the math is telling me it's less than 8. Of course, if you round up, it's not. But hey, I'm looking at 7.8. So that's a positive. Phillies pitching walks have surrendered 235 walks through the first 81 games, less than 3 a game. I can live with that all day long. The Phillies as a team have worked 279 walks, so about 3.5 walks a game. The Phillies are working that. So again, the trend of being better with their approach, having better plate overall approaches, is showing up a little bit with the 7.8 strikeouts a game. And I can't believe I'm actually sitting here being excited about striking out over 7 times a game. But again, where we're coming from is a lot higher than that. But I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited about the Phillies. The Phillies batters are working about 3.5 walks per game because that's putting runners on base. Now, of course, we're going to get right here. We're going to talk about how they can't get those runners in, but at least they're getting them there, right? So I'm digging that. Through the first half, the Phillies almost just fell shy of 700 hits at 697, and they gave up 676 hits. So that number's a little bit close to each other. They're averaging about 8.6 hits a game, and they're averaging giving up 8.3. But they're counterbalancing that with the damn strikeouts, 9.1. Now we get into the head scratchers, the one that the numbers that keep me up at night. 180 for 692 with runners in scoring position. It's 260 batting average through the first half of the season. Yes, I understand what you people are going to, some of you that's baseball people are going to hit me with. What's the rest of the league? I think what are they? Currently the second highest team in RISP in the National League, maybe. I don't know if it's Major Leagues, but National League. I don't, you can tell me all day long that's valid. But when you're batting 260, when you're batting less than 270 with runners in scoring position, that's not valid. That's absolutely not valid. If this team was existing 30 years ago and they were boasting a 260 RISP, they'd be a third or fourth place team. I understand the rest of the teams are not necessarily doing it either, but I'm not concerned about what the rest of the teams are doing. I'm concerned about what the Phillies are not doing. And you got to be batting at least 270 with runners in scoring position, in my opinion, to be a considered World Series contender. They have also left 586 runners on base total. Runners in scoring position and just runners on base. For over 7 a game. So this is where the numbers begin to sort of like counteract each other. The 3.5 walks are very, very, very positive. Leaving 7.2 runners on base is not good. It's not. That number needs to be less than 6. Hell, it needs to be 0, but that's not ever going to happen. Their opponents have left 7 runners on base, so I guess that balances out a little bit. Now the final category here is runs. Through the first half of 2025, the Phillies scored 365 runs for a putrid 4.5 runs a game. They surrendered 331 for 4. So they're outscoring their opponent by a half a run a game. That ain't going to work. Again, I go back to my old school baseball roots. If you're not scoring at least 5 runs a game, just like in hockey, if you're not scoring at least 3 goals a game, averaging 3 goals a game, you're not going to win a championship. If you're not able to produce at least 5 runs a game at the major league level, to me, you're not going to win a World Series. You're just not going to. You're making it that much harder for you to do it. Now they're giving up the appropriate amount of runs. 4, I can live with that. But they're just not scoring enough runs. And that was evident this week. As I said, through the month of March, 3-1, April 14-12, May 19-9, and June 13-13 for the month. That was the months. The leadoff carousel, like I've been keeping track all season. Trey Turner is one more leadoff appearance away from tying Bryson Stott for the team lead at 37. So Turner's led off 36 times, Stott has led off 37, and Schwarber has led off 9. Thank God that's over with, right? We can no longer look at Kyle Schwarber as that leadoff hitter. And again, I hate to say this. I really do. But I know I've said it. I know you've said it over and over and over again. Why was Kyle Schwarber leading off for all those years? Why? He never was a leadoff hitter. I don't care how he felt comfortable. They finally decided not to let him lead off anymore, and he's having potentially one of his best offensive seasons ever. Then on the same side of that coin, I said all along, why isn't Trey Turner leading off? And now he's leading off, and he's been the most consistent hitter in that time. We've been saying, or I've been saying, we've all been saying this stuff for years. Finally, now they listen. And I'm not saying they need to listen to us. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is if the teams that are part of this, that are with these players on a daily basis, the coaches, the managers, the trainers, all those guys that are involved in the baseball operations of the Phillies, how the hell are the fans able to sort of unpeel that onion about Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner years ago, but they weren't? What's it like down there? Are the players truly in charge? Because maybe now it seems like they might be. Because it took so long for these changes to finally kind of kick in. I don't know, man. It's not a good sign, right? Because I know I've said it. I said it over and over again that Trey Turner should have been the leadoff hitter since the day he got here. And I've also said since the day he got here, Kyle Schwarber should have been batting 4th. Finally, it all happens in 2025. It can't be that they were blind to it, right? I mean, they've had to have seen it, right? Or am I going to get a homer chiming in telling me that's baseball? That's baseball. So there you go, man. There you go. That's the Phillies in a nutshell through the first half of the 2025 season. Are those? Oh yeah, and by the way, the record. I did all that and didn't tell you the record. The record through the first half was 47 and 34. 47 and 34 was their record through the first half. They are sitting now at 49 and 35 with their win today. One win off of the 50 mark, which is good. But what we've talked ad nauseum on this program, we've talked ad nauseum on other programs, on the final, on the other shows that are on this network, on other shows in general, of the concerns with this team being a World Series contender. Are they? Have you seen enough from the first half to give the seal of approval that they are a World Series contender? Now, again, if you want to give me your homer answer, fine. But I would prefer the rational, real answer. But whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk. If we bring Painter up in the second half, then who is the odd man out of the rotation as we still have Nola, which means, well, Nola was transferred to the 60-day IL, correct? He's no longer on the 10 or 15 day. He's on 60 day. Isn't that the death roll for a pitcher when they get moved to the 60-day IL? You know, as the days sort of burn by, what is the likelihood that Aaron Nola does not even return this year? And I think that's an honest question that needs to start to be asked. Right? I mean, the mystery problems with Aaron Nola, was it the rib, the ankle, whatever the hell's wrong with him? And was that causing the velocity to be down? I mean, does anybody really believe that nonsense? That an ankle has placed him on 60-day IL? Come on, we all know what the problem is. There's something wrong with him and his arm. And I don't know if that's, I'm not saying there's like Tommy John issues, but there's a problem with Aaron Nola's mechanics. And there's a problem with somewhere why he's lost 3 miles off his fastball. So I'm not even putting my faith in Aaron Nola coming back. Because even if he was, say, to come back at the end of July, maybe they activate him at the end of July, you're looking at least 3 to 4 rehab assignments in August. Then he comes back in September. Why would you put a cold Aaron Nola back into the rotation? Now, if they need him, then yes. But I understand what you're saying about if they bring Painter up in the second half, who was the odd man out. First of all, stop with the Painter stuff, man. Why is there such a need to see this kid right now? Can't we let him enjoy AAA for a little bit? His time will come very soon. But why are we looking to bring him into the mix now? Again, is Painter going to be? Does Painter also have offensive talent that I'm not seeing? Are they keeping that under wraps? Is he going to be in the lineup like an Ohtani type guy? Is he going to bash me 25 homers and drive in 60 runs, bat like 280? Now, if that's the case, what the hell is he down in AAA for? He needs to be here. But we're asking a pitcher to come here. The pitching is not the problem. It's not. Unless Painter can be the next Shohei Ohtani, a DH type guy that can bat, who the hell cares what's going on with Andrew Painter right now? We have ample pitching depth right now for me. I'm okay with the way the rotation is. It's not, Luzardo's kind of out there, but everybody else is fine. We have a rotation right now, even without Nola, in my opinion. We got a rotation that can get you probably into at least the NLCS right now. That's not the problem, Michael Papernick. Why are we focusing on the starters? That's not the issue. Again, unless Andrew Painter has a stick and swings that thing mean, then I am not even concerned about that. It's not pitching, it's offense. OFFENSE. So I think that we should be concerned, or our thoughts should be on what that's going to look like and how that gets fixed. Andrew Painter's time will come. Hopefully in 2026. When we need them, because we're going to lose somebody out, potentially 2 pitchers out of that rotation. There's a possibility, possibly 3. There could be 3 pitchers missing from the rotation next year. Nola in the mystery injury, Luzardo on a 1-year contract, and Ranger Suarez, who's a UFA. So you'll have no choice, even if Nola does come back, which he will. You're going to have to replace at least 2 arms in that rotation next year. And guess who those 2 arms are, in my opinion? Andrew Painter and Mick Abel. 2 former first-round draft picks. So their time is coming. Mick Abel's time is now. He's getting that opportunity right now. Now, that would have been Andrew Painter's opportunity if Tommy John had not derailed him. I agree. But it did, and he's fighting his way back. Never pitched in AAA before. He's doing okay. He's finding his way. He's rounding into a pro. But again, unless Andrew Painter also swings a mean bat, I don't think we should be focused on the starting rotation at this current time. I am fine with the way it is right now, even without Nola. And I'm not banking on Nola at all in 2025. I really am not. I'm prepared to go on the rest of the way without him. Maybe that's what he needs. He needs to be shut the hell down for the year and come back fresh, Clearwater 2026. That's why I just think we need to focus on the offense. Phillies need to stay consistent. Yeah. Who's tired of saying that? Who is so sick and tired of saying that over and over again every day? We got to stay consistent. I get it. 2022 was a magical, out of nowhere type ride, but it occurred. And if you think about it, the way the team was built, with the high numbers of payroll, the big time players, kind of expected it, right? Didn't think it was going to happen, but it did, and it was expected. Then in 2023, they ripped defeat from the jaws of victory. And then last year. But the one constant about all that is our constant utterance of the word consistent, or lack thereof, with this team over the course of the last 3 seasons. So I'm going to go way back to the top of the show, Star Wars. When's enough? When do you say, let's turn on the lights, let's watch the cockroaches scatter, and let's burn this thing down, and let's start again? Because if it hasn't happened up to this point, and again, it's not like it's been a myriad or this, every year it's been a significant change in personnel, a significant change in philosophy, a significant change in anything. It's been pretty consistent with the players and who they are over the last 3 years. But their play has not been over the past 3 years. When is enough to say it's just not working? I know the homers don't want to hear that because that's baseball, folks. Peaks and valleys. I don't remember baseball being this mind-numbing to me, right? I don't remember baseball with not changing anything that's not working and expecting it to work even though it doesn't work. That's not baseball. That's lunacy. Okay? All right? That's a guy in Dombrowski and Middleton who put out big money, not wanting to admit that they were wrong about their big money. That's all that is. Ego, pride, all the 7 deadlies, man. But it's not working. So yes, Star Wars, I agree. They got to stay consistent. But at what point do you say, and be honest with yourself, just like we're all going to have to be? Some of us have already come to that conclusion. Others have not. That maybe that's just not possible with this group. And judging on things, judging on the trends, judging on where this team has, and I just read you the numbers, and I compared numbers to last season. There's some of these numbers are right on point with last year. Now, I didn't go deeper into 2023. I have them. Maybe I'll do that at our season midpoint show when we go on the Fightins final. We all come together and we talk about the first half at a glance and kind of project out. Maybe I do the numbers and say, What has changed? And what makes you think, because it hasn't changed, that it'll overall change? All right. So I agree with what you're saying, Star Wars, 100%. But what I don't know is, can it even be a possibility? JT is not good anymore. Yeah, no, I agree. JT is not good anymore. Now, That's Baseball crowd's going to tell you that he is the only thing holding together this pitching rotation. That is the JT Real Muto effect that keeps these things trucking along. Now, I'm not going to listen. He's probably got coach written all over him when he retires. I'm not saying he doesn't command respect from the pitchers, command respect from the defense. I'm not saying that. Absolutely not saying that. But honestly, I need him to command respect at the plate. All right. I need him to hit better than his weight. His offense has fallen apart this year. It was trending down last year, and it's completely fallen off a cliff this year. So I don't care if Aaron Nola, who's not even pitching anymore, or Zach Wheeler is comfortable with JT Realmuto catching. I don't really care about that when he goes 0 for 4. I honestly don't. That's, I'd rather him go 4 for 4 and the pitchers maybe be a little bit more uncomfortable with their catcher. I would make that trade in a heartbeat. I would trade that off. So, but you're right. JT is not good anymore. But the Phillies have painted themselves into a corner with this, because next year, when he's a free agent, if the Phillies decide to let him go and walk, who the hell's catching here? We don't have anybody that's MLB ready in the system or the next great thing. We did the down on the farm thing. Of course, Eduardo Tait is the name of the future, who I very much think he'll get promoted to Lake Woods very soon. Jersey Shore. Very, very soon. Very, very soon. He is going to high A. And he will finish out the season with the Blue Claws. So that might then he might make the team. He might make Reading out of camp next year. So that puts him in Double A in 2025. So that could be kind of speeding up his approach, but he's still 2 years away at the minimum. So who in the hell is going to be the catcher? Am I going to have to possibly live with a rotation of Rafael Marchant and Garrett Stubbs as our catching duo for the next 2 years after this season? JT might have the Phillies against the wall on this, because what the hell are we going to do about a catcher? Is a bad JT better than no JT right now? Because we traded away the next catching MLB prospect we had for Brandon Marsh, who on MattyB's greatest or worst trades in Phillies history, I believe that trade is number 4 for me as the worst trade in Phillies history. You traded him away for that full Brandon Marsh. The cupboard's pretty barren, so I don't know I don't think it's that easy with JT to let him walk away. I don't think it is. But he's been hitting second. He stinks. Thoughts on Kemp playing left? You know what? Otto Kemp will probably play wherever they want him. He'll sell peanuts and hot dogs during the game. If they want him to do it, he just wants to play. I don't care. I really don't care. I know Kepler's fallen out of favor. The outfield's a mess. Again, this is talking about a World Series contending team. That outfield's a mess. Left field's not working. Center field's a joke. And then you got Castellanos and right doing whatever he does. I don't care where he plays on left. I don't care where Kemp plays. Hell, can he catch? I mean, I don't really care. Kemp needs to stay up. Yeah, probably does. Abel. Yep, McAbel. Luzardo has the team option for next year, I believe. Yeah, and he does. I think he does have a team option. Or is it a player? It's an option for him. Do they exercise that option? We'll see. Probably they will. What is the identity of the Phillies team this season from other seasons? It's the same identity. It's the same thing. I'll tell you what the identity is. A bullpen with no roles and an imbalanced lineup. There you go. That's the identity. You know when they get down in games, they're not fighting back. You know the MO. What's the MO? Well, I mean, I've said this before. All you got to do is look at a box score. That's all you got to do. Any Phillies fan worth their salt, all they got to do is look at a box score. They don't got to look at highlights. They just got to see a box score see the line, the runs, the hits, the errors, whatever, and they can mentally play the game in their head based on just that. And you know I'm right, because you know how this thing plays out. They struggle against starting pitching, they attack a bullpen, and then their bullpen either gives up late. You can mentally play a game for this Phillies team just by looking at a box score. You can see it in your head. You can tell what happened just by looking at a box score. Because there's the blandness of this team. It's the same thing. It's the MO. Consistency just doesn't happen, unfortunately. This group has already peaked. Without change is not going to improve enough. And Steve, I asked you this. When we talk consistency, does consistency breed chemistry? Does chemistry breed routine? Does routine breed, familiarity? Does all these things sort of kind of blend themselves in? Because again, going into some of the philosophical problems with a Rob Thompson run baseball team, the bullpen with no roles. So the pitchers don't know what they're doing every day out there. The lineup that has changed just about daily over the past, I ran that stat earlier this season. I was keeping track of it through the first 50 games. And through the first 50 games, the Phillies had only changed their lineup. And when I mean had only gone with the same consecutive lineup for 2 games or more 6 times through 50 games. So the hitters can't get comfortable because there's this constant change. I just read to you the leadoff carousel tracker. 39 times for Stott, 39 times coming up for Turner, 9 times for Schwarber. Is that something to do with consistency? I maintain that we might already have a solid bullpen, but the problem, we don't know we have it because there's no routine in that bullpen. There's no roles given to anybody. Nobody can get comfortable in a certain position in the bullpen because they're not allowed to, because Rob Thompson plays the matchups. Is there something to the fact that this team does not have consistency because they don't have routine? We are all human beings, creatures of routine and habit. And baseball players, of course, now that's baseball. Routine. Right? That's baseball. And the Phillies don't have that. Does somebody need to write a lineup and say, I don't care who's pitching against us, left-handed, right-handed, ambidextrous, Kent Tekulve sidearm, I don't care who it is. This is the lineup every day. And guess what? I'm burning the binder. I'm getting rid of any analytic. You can feed me analytics all you want. Tell me about matchups, blah, 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 blah. But this is my bullpen. Come hell or high water. These are the closers. This guy's the closer. This guy's the setup guy, so on and so forth. And it's not changing. Is there something to do with that and the lack thereof that for the lack of consistency with this baseball team? I have never in my life, and I've watched a lot of baseball. I'm an older guy. I'm in my late 30s. I've watched a lot of baseball. And one of the things that used to infuriate me about the Phillies was the lack of, or the constant about it. It's always Mike Schmidt batting fourth. It's always Lenny Dykstra leading off. It's always Steve Carlton, blah, blah, blah. It's always Bedrosian. It's always, 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 always. But that's the way baseball's been for over 100 and some odd years. It's proven itself. Is lack of consistency born from lack of routine? I've hinted on this. I've said this over and over again. That's the one thing we have not tried here. That's the one thing the buffoon Rob Thompson has not tried yet. It's being routine. Sticking with a lineup and not moving it. Sticking or creating roles for the bullpen. Ryan Kirky might go somewhere tomorrow. And somebody says, you know what, man, you're the closer, dude. You're throwing 99 miles an hour. You have electric stuff. It breaks all over the place. You are our new closer. I don't care if it works or if it doesn't work. Just get comfortable. You could turn into the next Rivera because somebody said, here's your role. Has anybody ever asked any of these pitchers, the cowardly Philadelphia sports media, have they ever asked a Kerkering or a Banks or a Strom, are you frustrated that you don't know day to day what your job's going to be in that bullpen? Has anybody ever had the stones, the cojones to ask that question? I would love to know. Again, that's the one thing we haven't tried. It's friggin' routine. So you're right, Steve. But how do you get consistency? Consistency only happens after you alter your approach and stay ahead of the adjustment curves. Okay. I'm trying to figure that out in my head. What do you mean? Alter your approach and stay ahead of the adjustment curves. So you're talking individual consistency. So we're not discussing team consistency. You're speaking of Max Kepler's consistency or Brandon Marsh figuring out. I'm talking about team consistency. The ultimate team sport, baseball. So, over an hour rambling on about the Phillies. 48, 49, and 35. They're 2-1 in the second half. 3 games in. And tomorrow it'll all kick back off against the Padres. Are they a World Series contender? Stay tuned. And we'll all find out together. All right. Oh, geez. The homers have their eyes wide shut. Glaze the starting pitching. And expect this team to peak all of a sudden in September, October. It's really naive. Well, it is. And it's kind of funny. Luzardo is signed through next season. Would you try to sign Luzardo after the season to a new contract rather than wait? Nope, I would not. I don't know about Luzardo yet. Again, I got prospects, man. I drafted Mick Abel in the first round in 2020, and I drafted Andrew Painter in the first round in 2022 or 21 for a reason. Because they were the future. And why the hell would I want to sign Luzardo? He's been so goddamn up and down. If Wheeler walks after the season, then possibly the Phillies' 20 situation could be Wheeler, Luzardo, Nola, Sanchez, Abel. So where does Painter fit in at? Can we worry about that in 2026? I mean, I'm not. We don't know what the situation with Nola is, right? We don't know what that is. We don't know what the situation is going to be with Luzardo at the end of the season. We don't know how any of this is going to work out. You're also forgetting Taijuan Walker, who's still under contract for 1 more year. So Walker's part of that. He's not going to. You think Taijuan Walker is going to do another year in the bullpen? You got to add Taijuan Walker into the mixer. He's got 1 more year left on that deal. Runs through 2026. Again, Michael, let's focus on the here and the now, man. It's offense. Team dynamics, consistency is about guiding principles and framework. That's for sure. Yeah, I agree. All right. So, Michael Papernick, obsessed with the starting rotation in 2026. I mean, it's a legitimate question, but not at this particular moment in time. I don't know what they're going to do in 2026. I'm more concerned what the offense is going to look like in 2026 than what Jesus Luzardo or where Andrew Painter fits in, or if Aaron Nola mysteriously comes back from his injury and what that injury might be. 2026 is a million miles away, right, when it comes to the starting rotation. And it's a good problem, honestly. If we have too much starting pitching, you can never have too much starting pitching, as we are finding out this year. You can never have too much starting pitching. So I'll worry about 2026 when we cross that bridge. I think Ranger's gone. I don't think he's going to come back. I think he feels personally slighted by the Phillies that they didn't lock him down long term. And he's having a very good year, but he's probably going to walk away because he feels, disrespected, which I don't blame him. But as far as the others, Nola is a big mystery. Painter, Abel, again, Taijuan Walker's still in this mix. So what are you going to do with him? So the Phillies have an abundance of starting pitching potentially in 2026. Whether or not it's the right starting pitching or if it's ready to click on all cylinders, we don't know. But this moment was bound to come at some point. Nola couldn't pitch forever. Wheeler, thank God, has if we can get another 2 seasons, 26 and 27, out of like peak Zach Wheeler, I'll be okay. We could weather the storm into a new dynamic of starting rotation by 2027. Wheeler's the key. I need about 2 more years out of Wheeler at peak Wheeler form. After 27, I don't expect him to be much of anything, but 2 more seasons from Zach Wheeler, of dominant Zach Wheeler. Then we'll be okay. We can mix and match around that. But I think it's a good problem to have. I'm hoping they use the first half of the season to experiment with the vets and then use it to determine what they need for sure. I don't know, Steve. I don't know if you can, even if they determine that. And I don't know what you mean, like in terms of what they need to go and get in trades or what they need to. I don't know what you mean by that or who they need to play. I don't know, but I hope they figure something out in the first half. Very uninspiring. Doesn't really get me excited about them potentially going on to win a World Series. It really doesn't. Joe Hale, thoughts on the Flyers draft. Thank you, Joe, for the segue. Yes, we are over an hour into the program. Let's get to the Flyers draft, the real reason why we all came here tonight. So the Flyers draft on Friday, they had, 7 first, second round picks. They had a bunch of drafts, a very important draft for the Flyers, right? The most potentially influential draft in Flyer history. To get this team back up on the map. But things happened earlier in the week last week that I think, and I was wondering if it was going to change the Flyers' philosophy. So let's go back to Monday of last week when they went out and traded for Trevor Zegras from the Ducks as center, top 6 scoring potential, former first round 9th overall draft pick, under team control for at least. Well, he's got 1 more year left on his current deal. Then he's an RFA. So essentially, he's under Flyers control probably for at least the next 4 seasons. And it costs you pennies on the dime to get him. Ryan Poehling and a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick next year. And I was wondering if that might alter the Flyers' philosophy heading into the draft. They got the center that they were looking for. Now, is Zegras the number 1 center? I don't know. If maybe he is. Maybe he matures into that. Maybe he's unlocked when he comes here and he becomes that kind of player. He had the 2 good years in Anaheim, and then he has some injury problems. So I don't know what that means for him in the future. But with a center-laden draft and picking 6 overall, I was very excited about the prospects of picking up James Haggins, Roger McQueen, or potentially Jake O'Brien. He could have been a nice fit. But I was concerned that maybe the trade of Trevor Zegras might have changed some of that. And also, I wanted to see how this board was going to break because that obviously dictates a lot too. So it kind of broke the way everybody thought it was going to break. Matthew Schaefer goes 1st overall to the Islanders. Michael Misa goes 2nd overall to San Jose. And then I guess then I was like, okay, so I knew it was going to be Schaefer and Misa. I think everybody knew it was going to be one of those. Those were the first 2. Then it was a matter of how the rest of the centers were going to go. Because you had Anton Frondel, Desnoyers, you had Brady Martin, who I thought was a little bit of a reach where he went, James Haggins, and Jake O'Brien. Those were the rest of the centers that were kind of the touted ones, the highly prospected ones, and where the Flyers would fall into this and who the Flyers would potentially have the opportunity to select at 6, and if they were going to alter their plans to take a center at 6. So the rest of the board goes, Frondel goes 3rd to Chicago. Desnoyers, who is the brother, Caleb Desnoyers, who's the brother of Elliot Desnoyers of the Flyers, he goes 4th overall to Utah, the Mammoth. Brady Martin, shockingly, in my opinion, goes 5th overall to Nashville. So still on the board for the Flyers, if they want, are James Haggins and Jake O'Brien. Jake O'Brien, the 6'2", 177 center from Brentford, and James Haggins, the undersized 5'11", 186-pound Boston College center, who began the season consensus as the number 1 overall draft pick until he sort of lost a little value because of the offensive season he had with Boston College and the fact that offensive season really featured him more in a perimeter role. And I hate that. It's similar to what they were doing to Cutter Gauthier his last season in college. A lot of perimeter play. I don't know if this is an NCAA thing, but it seems to me that they really protect their centers at these Division I schools, and they really push the game out for them. They don't get them involved in the gameplay. And I'm concerned about the level of NCAA hockey in this country. I really am. Division I. I think it's hurting players' development. I really do. But James Higgins, very perimeter style, not a very big offensive production, lost a little bit of steam in the draft. Matthew Schaefer, Michael Misa pushed way above them in maybe higher competitive junior leagues. So the Flyers, who had already acquired a center, what were they going to do with number 6 overall? At the time, I was heavily believing, I still held on to McQueen, who I really think the Flyers should have taken, honestly. But Porter Martone, now the right winger, 6'3", 284-pounder from Brampton, was a projected top 4 pick before the board started to break. And that's the pick the Flyers went with. So let's bring him up. We actually talked about him on this program a couple times. He was with the Steelhead, 6'3", 196. He's got a pro game in frame. He's not a good skater. He's a good skater who goes to the net, finishes his check, handles the puck smoothly for his size, and can be quite noticeable in possession when he's playing with the confidence and intentions. So, right wing does have the ability to play center. I don't know if they're going to ask him to play center. They're probably going to ask him to play right wing. I'm not even sure if he's a day one guy, and I'm not really sure if any of the guys taken after, let's be honest, Desnoyers might be a day one guy, but he's got the potential to be a day one guy. If not, he's going to be going back for his 4th year in the OHL, which he's only 18, and I get that, and he can't go to the AHL till you're 20. So I don't know if he's better suited to go back to juniors for one more year and then try again with the Flyers. But I'm sure he's going to get a heavy look at developmental camp and then a heavy look this spring or this fall during training camp. But I'm okay with the move. I really am. I'm looking for some offensive presence. And I think that the Flyers were a little concerned about James Higgins and his undersized and his lack of offense in Boston College. And I think that they view McQueen with maybe less of a less enamored than I was of the guy. And he has some massive back problems that really cost him some time last year. And when you're talking about a 6'5", 240-pound dude who's a centerman and is going to spend a lot of time mucking and grinding, having back issues is not necessarily something that gets you excited, right? And I get the danger with him. So with that being said, and the fact that we picked up Zebras, I'm okay with the damn move with Porter Martone. I think he's a potential. He's got a lot of potential upside offensively. He's a playmaker. Now, whether or not they put him at right wing or whether they put him in, I mean, listen, there's a need for him at right wing or there's a need for him on the left. I'm also a firm believer in hockey. When I was growing up and I was being coached or taught the game, if you're going to play forward up front, you're going to play all three. You better be on how to play left, right, and center. You're a forward. When I, matter of fact, my first exposure to organized hockey at 12 was you're not a left wing. I don't care if you're a left-hand shot. You're not a left winger. You're not a center. You're not a right wing. You guys are forwards. I will place you where I need you, and you will be moved if I need to move you. So I'm a big, firm opponent, and as I've coached a little bit as an adult, I've sort of had that same philosophy with the forwards. But I don't know if they see him truly as a centerman or if they want to kind of just let his playmaking on the wings take over. He does have the ability, as I read you his bio, he's a good skater and he goes to the net and he finishes checks. So where do they vision him in the lineup? I would imagine it's on the wing at some point. So we didn't solve the center issue at 6, but we did solve a potential offensive issue. And when the team is so devoid of offense, you have an opportunity to take a blue chip guy who could be a day one. I don't know if he's going to be, but he could be. Maybe if he was 19, he'd be. But I don't know what they're going to do with him at day one. But I'd like to pick based on who was left, based on who was available. I like to pick there, and it's all about offense at this point for me. I think Zebras is a cock and a rental. The draft was mediocre for me, and I feel like there's other stuff coming based on what they did. There has to be. No, and absolutely, Steve, and I'll get to that in a second. So the Flyers weren't done. Of course, they had the 21st or 22nd and 31st overall picks. And they were able to package a deal to go all the way up to 12 and address more offense. And they did with Jack Nesbitt. Now, Jack is a, let's look at Jack. Jack is a 6'5", 186 center from Windsor of the OHL. He's the Roger McQueen type frame guy that I'm looking for. Now, obviously, I need to see a little bit more weight on 186-pound centerman. I'd like to maybe round up to 200 pounds there. Jack would be okay with me. I would like to see that, honestly. But they addressed the need of center. Now, he is not a day one. He's extremely not a day one. He is. Let's take a look at his stuff. So last year for Windsor, 65 games, 25 goals, 39 assists for 64 points. It was only his second year in major junior hockey, so he's definitely headed back there next year. He won't be a day one. He'll be an intriguing person to look at in camp, and he has definitely got Jet Lachenko stamped all over him as a future center on this team at some point, but that is not today. So for me in the first round, I get the talent that was there and I get the needs that were addressed. They chose the right needs and the right talent. But what's more concerning to me, and I think it's concerning to a lot of Flyers fans, is the mantra of the rebuild. We are going on potentially the 6th straight season of not making the playoffs. The Flyers have never done that as a franchise. Something needs to give in 2025-26. Not asking for a Stanley Cup. I'm asking for a fucking playoff appearance, for God's sakes. That's all I want. And I know it's still about the mantra of the future and building towards a Stanley Cup. And I know that Nesbitt fits that role a lot like what Jet Lachenko is going to do later on down the line. Porter Martone, would I be upset if he doesn't start the season off with the Flyers? No. Would I be surprised if he did? No. Because I think you can go either way. It's all going to depend on what the Flyers think he can handle at 18. And being on the right side or the left side might be a pathway for him on this team right off the bat. So we'll see how that all kind of plays out. So first round speaking, I'm okay with it. I don't know what value you were looking to get it down there at the bottom of the first round when it came to players. I know there was probably some defensive players that you might have been able to go for. But as far as addressing the needs of offense, which this team is so goddamn devoid of, the Flyers did a great job on paper. Now, whether or not these picks play out, I don't know. But hockey is a strange animal. We know that. After you get past the top 3 or 4 players of a draft, it's all developmental at that point. It truly is. So whether or not these pan out, I don't know for the Flyers, but I'm okay with it. They addressed the needs that I was looking for them to address, and that's basically all we can do. And hopefully that it works out. So I got to wait around the 20th for the Flyers. Hopefully, now again, I just said there's a double-edged sword here. I definitely believe the Flyers need to give something to the fans this year. And Steve mentioned it earlier on. There's more coming. The Flyers have cap. They got cap room, and there's trades that are still. Don't forget, July 1st is the next banner day on the NHL calendar. That's when people can start moving addresses. I expect the Flyers to be somewhat players in free agency. I expect the Flyers to bring in a few players in order to help them win next year. And I expect them to bring in some players to help them be relevant next year. I absolutely agree with you. I'm not all in waiting until 2030 for them to make the playoffs again. It's got to happen next year. They've never gone 6 seasons without making the playoffs before in the history of the franchise. It's got to give next year. So it's what a rebuild is, though. And you got to be patient with it. But the Flyers do got to give something back. And that starts next year. But as far as the first 2 rounds, and then overall as the draft sort of kind of languored on, what did we get? We got some, there was some. Let's look at some of the other players they selected. There's again, these are all developmental players. Carter Amico in the second round, Jack Murtaugh in the second round, Shane Van Soggy, Matthew Guard, Max Westergaard, Luke Velasky, and Nathan Quinn round out the Flyers selections in the draft. 9 players are now added to the system, 9 more developmental players. Of course, the top 3 that we're probably going to discuss more prevalently over the next 6 months, Porter Martone, Jack Nesbitt, and Carter Amico. We'll see. But yeah, you're right, Michael. I don't want to have to wait to 28-30 to be relevant again. I thought the Flyers did what they had to do to be more relevant in this draft. I didn't expect them to take I didn't expect them to draft 3 players in the first round. I was glad that Danny was able to trade up into that 12 spot and package a deal to get a better player at that position, because I didn't know what was going to be down there at the bottom of the draft in the first round. Please, God, let Nesbitt be Isaac Ratliff. Well, no, he's not going to be Isaac Ratliff. Wasn't Isaac Ratliff a defenseman? I love the day 2 picks. Again, these are all developmental picks. The Flyers followed the blueprint of what they didn't go off the res. They didn't take a goalie. They didn't go defense heavy. They tried to address the needs of this team, but they did not address center. Right? They got Nesbitt, but he's not day 1. So the Flyers are still devoid of center talent, with the exception of Zegras. But who's the second center? Hell, who's the first center? Who's the fourth center? And you got Couturier is probably the third center, right? We still don't have centermen. We don't. Not for next year. So that alone tells you there's more moves coming. But did they address it for next season? No, they didn't, right? They addressed it for the future. And I know that doesn't sound good to a lot of people, and I know that frustrates a lot of people. But the team is still lacking centers. They're still lacking a true number 1. Is Trevor Zegras, is he going to be that number 1? I don't know, but they're still lacking a number 1 center. And it wasn't addressed in this draft. It wasn't, because it just didn't break that way. They didn't. I think they soured on Higgins and his offense being too perimeter, and I think they were concerned about Roger McQueen's injuries to go after him. So I'm okay with the value of Porter Martone. He was a top 4 prospect, projected a top 4 player. He's going to put the puck in the net. Whether or not, what his line looks like in the future, is it, do they move Martone to the middle and flank him with Michkov and Konechny? I would love to know what the lines are going to look like too this year. But the draft is the draft. They weren't picking number 1 overall. So after that, it's all a crapshoot. But I thought that they did well with the assets they had. They got salary cap to play around with this year. They're going to have even more of that to play around with next year with free agents. The pieces are starting to come together, but I agree. Ultimately, I need to see something from this team this year. I need a playoff berth, and it's non-negotiable. It's absolutely non-negotiable. What legit star players want to come to the Flyers in free agency? Those who value money. I mean, and right now, and I mentioned free agency, and the problem with free agency this year, at least, is there's some talent out there, but it's all aging talent. There's some older players out there, none that really fit the Flyer mold. So unless you're going to bring in some rental players, I think the Flyers are going to rely on some of the younger players. I don't think they can go into this season with the current roster and expect to make the playoffs, because it's just not good enough. And I don't care if Tortorella's here or not. It's just not good enough. They don't have a starting goalie. They've had problems all over the blue line with their defense. Does Cam York continue to regress? Does Jamie Drysdale step up? I mean, we're going to get deeper into all this later on, but it's hard. The Flyers, it's a rebuild. I don't know what else to say. I don't, and it doesn't happen overnight. They had to get out from underneath some bad contracts, which are now starting to lighten up. Ryan Ellis's money falls off the books next year, so some of this stuff is starting to lighten up, and they're going to be players in some of these moves, and they're going to make some trades. Maybe they move some of these assets. I don't know. More moves are going to come. July 1st is a big day in the NHL. It's when free agency starts. So we're going to see it, and hopefully it comes together and it's a little bit more clear. But as far as Porter Martone goes, at 6, I'm okay with it. As Nesbitt at 12, I'm absolutely okay with it as well. Top talent, best available player at that position available. They were obviously not feeling Higgins, and they weren't feeling McQueen because they passed on them. It's just the reality of it all. The draft was, as Steve says, mediocre. I don't know if it was mediocre. It's not generational. Now, the generational talent is coming next year as the number one. Was it Gavin McGriffin or something like that? His name is. I was starting to look at some stuff on him today. We'll talk more about him in future episodes, but we'll see. Who is the Flyers starting goalie this season coming up? I think not having a legit goalie is 100% an issue, and I don't know who the starting goalie is. Probably Jake Allen and Sam Ersson. That'd be my guess. That'd be my pick. Oh, if they don't make the playoffs, DB is in trouble. Yeah, I honestly believe that. They got to make the playoffs. They can't go 6 seasons without making the playoffs. It just can't happen. And I don't think there's any way to assuage that. No. But, all right, listen, we are almost an hour and a half in. I am going to hold off on the other night and of the card review segments till tomorrow night. We've had a very productive program discussing your first half Phillies and your Flyers draft. So, again, I apologize for not covering the draft firsthand. We'll try to do better for next year, but we are targeting the MLB draft coming up at the All-Star break. Phillies picking 26th overall in the first round. So we'll start focusing our attention on the MLB draft as we get closer to it. You do know the player that I want is the guy from North Carolina, Stevenson, the catcher. I think the Phillies should target him because, hell, we need catching. But we'll get into more of that stuff tomorrow. We'll continue the conversation about the Flyers draft. But again, I'm okay with Porter Martone, best talent available at that position at that particular time in the draft. But we'll continue the conversation tomorrow. We'll continue talking about some Phillies. Phillies back in action tomorrow night. So let's get all that set up. I hear Carter Hart could be in play possibly with Flyers. I do not want the guy. I don't know how Carter Hart's in play for the Flyers. Carter Hart has not been found not guilty. The charges against Carter Hart have not been dropped. Carter Hart is still not able to immigrate to this country. All right? Or I know he's not immigrating, but they had a mistrial. The Canadian government is now starting the process of another trial. Carter Hart is not, I repeat, not cleared of the charges. His trial is still forthcoming. It was a mistrial. They had to start over again because of some procedural issues or potential evidence problems. Now, will the charges against him be dropped later on down the line? Maybe, I don't know. But I heard that too. Carter Hart is not a free man. He is still pending a criminal case. It was a mistrial. They had to start over again. But no, Carter Hart is nowhere near coming. Carter Hart's focus should be on that and not hockey right now. But Carter Hart is not free. He's still pending indictment by the Canadian government. They had a mistrial, but they're going to redo it again. He has not been cleared. So I'll be very clear about that. I need Anthony and Crawford up here soon. Keaton Anthony's not coming up. Crawford should come up, hopefully, in the next few weeks. Good show. Thank you, Michael Papernick. Who has the Fighting's final? How many times do I got to put it up here, man? It's all over our social media. I put it up on Twitter. I showed it at the beginning of the show, and there you go. There it is again. Pat, Steve, and Mike got you covered this week on the Fighting's final against the Padres. So we'll be back tomorrow with the Fighting's final and with this program following the Fighting's final tomorrow night. You guys have a great night. Again, we'll get back into some Flyers talk. We'll mix it up with some more Phillies. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk Eagles tomorrow, man. Let's see. Is it too early for me to talk Eagles? I don't know. Maybe we'll bring some of that up. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but if you guys want to talk about Eagles, we'll talk. We didn't open the phone lines tonight because couldn't get off my soapbox, but we'll do it. We'll do it tomorrow. But we'll also do the other night in the card review segment tomorrow. So until we talk again, you guys have a great, great, great rest of your night and even better tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow night.